We start with a claim from the Tories that migrants are quite literally queuing up in Calais, waiting for Labour to win the election. Sir Keir Starmer has said a Labour government would scrap the Rwanda scheme on day one, and Home Secretary James Cleverly brought up quotes in yesterday's Daily Telegraph where migrants said that they were worried about being deported and so were waiting for the result of the general election. Some people did make the journey to the UK today, and Reform UK leader Nigel Farage was speaking on GB News live from the Channel, where he saw a small boat heading over there. He told us why today is such a significant day.
Behind me, you can see a white dinghy. There are 45 people on board. Behind it, you can see an escort vessel, because that's what the French do. Despite the 500 million quid we've given them, they literally, once these boats are afloat, escort them to our 12-mile line where they hand them over to Border Force. That of itself, I think, is outrageous. But the significance of this boat is that this number on this vessel take it beyond 50,000 that have come since Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister.
Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by our political editor, Christopher Hope. Chopper, let's start with this Telegraph story, yesterday's paper. One of their journalists went to France, to Calais, and spoke to migrants who said they were waiting for a Labour government.
Yes, it's a camp called the Grand South camp in Dunkirk, and they spoke to people there who have fled war-torn areas, they said, and they are waiting, some said, to come across here when the new government is elected, and they assume it's going to be a Labour government. Looking at the polls, few would dispute that if those polls are correct. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has vowed to scrap this Rwanda plan on day one of being in office. We do know that Rwanda, well, it seems Rwanda, anecdotally has led to a degree of putting migrants off from coming to the UK, because we are seeing a building up of numbers in Dublin, in Southern Ireland, from migrants going there to avoid the threat of Rwanda. So it may well be that this idea of this deterrent is actually starting to work, and hence these migrants in Calais are saying we're not going to come across. That was seized on by Rishi Sunak last night in the TV debate, James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, again today, to show that the Rwanda can work despite what's to come, Sir Keir Starmer says.
Is this a rare setback for Labour in this campaign?
I think that they're on a weak spot on the issue of migration, and even net migration might come onto that. But on illegal migration, what they're offering is really what the Tory government has tried to do, which is work closely with particularly with France. We've given them £480 million to establish different ways to stop people coming across, and more officers, 800 officers on the beach, Joint Command Centre, Detention Centre. Money being spent, our taxpayers' money being spent in France. It's done very little to stop the flow, by all accounts.
Yes,
and all Labour will do is more of that.
Some are saying that Labour's policy is more of the same, which is a failed policy. Others would argue that actually the Tories have made a Horlicks of this particular issue, and that Labour can only improve the situation. Keir Starmer points to the fact that he has a history as a top lawyer of tackling criminals, and he's confident he'll smash the gangs. We wait to see. LBC this morning, head-to-head between James Cleverly and Yvette Cooper, who is the Shadow Home Secretary, and she, on behalf of Labour, will not put a figure on by how much Labour will reduce illegal net migration. Is that significant?
That hasn't changed. I asked that same question of Yvette Cooper when the party unveiled its manifesto at the Co-op HQ in Manchester. She is saying, why would we? Successive governments have tried to put a number on it, going back to David Cameron in 2010, saying under 100,000, tens of thousands was a figure. They've never got near that. In fact, the number's gone dramatically the other way. So they're not going to go play a numbers game, as they would say. That's clever politics, because we as journalists want to get a figure to tell our viewers and listeners what the figure is if Labour win power. They won't go there, but they are forecast to get probably a halving in net migration to maybe 300,000 in September. Again, the further question, why on earth has this government gone for an early election when the figures on net migration are looking better? Instead, Labour can claim it's their win when it happens.
Indeed, and now Bettinggate continues, this time 5 further police officers implicated.
Yes, more than that, the Gambling Commission have sent the details of 5 Met officers, forgive me, to the Met Police saying we think these individuals may have bet money on the date of the election. That comes after another member of Rishi Sunak's close protection team was arrested and with suggestions he put money on the date of the election. We don't know what these 5 have done or where they work, if they're part of the close team around the PM or whether they're friends of those people who may have known more. So it keeps drip getting worse. We had an attempt today by the PM to get a grip on it. He said that Craig Williams and Laura Saunders, 2 candidates of the Tory party, no longer have the support of the party at the election, despite the fact their names are now on the ballot paper, so you can vote for them if you want to, but they're not official Tory candidates. Laura Saunders' partner is the Director of Campaigns. He's taking a step back as well as Nick Mason, who's the Chief Data Officer for the Tory party. The problem is that it's drip getting worse. A feeling it's getting worse, even though more names are coming out. We think as many as 40 people knew the date of the election. The Gambling Commission is now looking through all the bets placed. Were any of them to do with these 40 people and the police, and so it goes on.
The problem is it plays into the narrative of Tory sleaze, doesn't it? Even though it's not the Prime Minister directly involved, I don't think he's been too paddy power. If he has been, we'll find out shortly.
He says he hasn't.
Is that right?
And neither him nor his family have
right.
put
He only gambles on election dates, but not when they're going to be. Going early for July was very brave. Quickly, before we get to former Labour Minister Bill Randell, are there implications for those 2 seats, those 2 Tories that have been disowned by the party? Do we know what their majorities are, and could that be significant?
Not to hand. I'll bring their majorities back to you at 4 o'clock.
Probably not great news for them, I would have thought.
Well, Craig Williams, as I understand it from colleagues who watch Welsh politics, thought that his seat, Montgomery and Glendower, was the one the Tories were most likely to win. I think Bristol North West was more marginal, and of course other candidates are standing, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think this is not. This is that you're looking down the screen.
Well, yeah, he's got a majority of 12,138.
Exactly. So on the margin, in normal times you keep that seat, but in the current polls you don't.
Being disowned by your party is not going to help, is it?
I'm not sure where Laura Saunders is, but I think there's no question that of the entire campaign, Mark, the 2 things that have cut through have been the D-Day early withdrawal by the Prime Minister and this story, and it keeps getting worse, the Prime Minister. Chopper,
stay with us because we're joined now by former Labour Minister Bill Randell. Mr Randell, lovely to have you on the programme.
Great to be with you.
Can we talk about Labour's policy to stop the boats? It's not working, is it, if people in Calais are waiting for the 5th of July and for Keir Starmer to become Prime Minister?
These are a few anecdotes. The reality is that the Tories have completely lost control of our borders. Net migration is 3 times higher today than it was when the Labour Party has left office. 50,000 migrants crossing the Channel since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister. We want a serious government like we had when Labour was last in office, where we worked with our international partners, we worked across the system, we speeded up the processing of claims, which is the biggest green flag to migrants coming to this country, and we dramatically reduced the numbers, rather than the stunts of the Rwanda scheme. And, talk of a few people saying it's a deterrent. If you look at the numbers, even were Rwanda to be successful in its own terms, you've got a 1% chance of being sent to Rwanda. For people who've travelled halfway across the world, fleeing for their lives, that really is not a deterrent.
However, Bill Randell, I hate to contradict you, but the Irish Taoiseach thinks that the Rwanda plan is a deterrent because he pointed out several weeks ago that numbers are up in Ireland as a result of Rwanda. That's his quote, not mine.
I think that's an indication that the Irish are struggling to manage the migration crisis, and they're looking for other people to blame as a result of their actions.
OK, let's bring our political editor. Go on, finish your point, Bill, then I'll bring in Chopper for a question.
The numbers are out of control. We need a returns and enforcement unit. We need better returns agreement with other international countries. We need to speed up the processing. We need border security. Well, we did it when we were last in government. With respect, Mark, don't say good luck with that. We did it. We managed the situation when we were last in government.
I know the
and it
weather's
was
good.
a hell of a lot better than it is today.
I know the weather's good, but you've been on the pop early. Listen, I think Keir Starmer is going to be the first Prime Minister ever to actually reject and end a policy which, even if it works, he's going to axe it, which is the Rwanda plan. But let's bring in our political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, what do you think?
But that's my point, Mark. I don't understand why, given the money that's been spent, hundreds of thousands of pounds sunk on this project, Bill Randell, why doesn't Sir Keir Starmer, if he's Prime Minister in 2 weeks' time, just say, let's see if it works? Because then he can just say, well, it works, let's move on.
Because it is a stunt and it's incredibly not value for money. I think the figure is about 300,000 per migrant sent to Rwanda. That is not a way to tackle this problem. And when we were last in government, Mark, you say I've been on the pop. I was on the reality when we were last in government, and I was a minister handling these issues, and the numbers were 3 times less than they are today.
OK, where do you think we'll be with the illegal boat crossings in 5 years' time, should Labour win the election, Bill?
I think they will have been dramatically reduced. You know, when Labour was in power, we didn't have the illegal boat crossings.
OK, do you want to give me a number?
I think we've got a grip on the system. Sorry?
OK, so is that zero? Is that zero illegal migrant crossings by 2029?
I think we can get there, yes.
I tell you what, look after your health, and I'll see you. I'll see you in 5 years' time.
I'll see you a lot sooner than that.
Brilliant. Bill Randell, thank you so much. An interesting and spirited conversation with former Labour Minister Bill Randell. Thank you, Bill.